Good evening, everyone. Buonasera. Iniziamo questo congresso, questa conferenza con la seduta di apertura. Io parlerò in inglese. So I will be speaking English for this opening session. Your Eminence, Your Excellencies, Chief Rabbi Disegni, Reverend Father Rector Magnifico, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, it's an honor and a pleasure for me to open this international conference, New Documents from the Pontificate of Pope Pius XII and Their Meaning for Jewish-Christian Relations. My name is Etienne Veteux, and I am presently the Auxiliary Bishop of Reims in France since this September. But when we started preparing the conference, and for most of the preparation, I was director of the Cardinal Bea Center for Judaic Studies. The Cardinal Bea Center is the Center for the Study of Judaism and Jewish-Christian Relations of the Pontifical Gregorian University. It's twin since its establishment with the Center for the Study of Christianity of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. The center offers a two-year master's level curriculum in Jewish studies and Jewish-Christian relations. And what should be noted is that most of the classes, or many of the classes, are two-voice classes with a Jewish scholar and a Catholic scholar. Over 3 years ago, Pope Francis gave access to the section of the Apostolic Archives containing the documents of the Pontificate of Pius XII. This means 16 million new pages or files pertaining to one of the most somber and complex moments in human history. Now, it's impossible to have a complete and detailed view of all this material in just 3 years, but we believed it would be the right time, after 3 years and a half, to offer a first assessment. Now, I'd like to insist on 2 points about the preparation that I hope we'll be able to find again during this conference. The first thing is that we brought together quite a few institutions. The initiative came from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum with the Cardinal Bea Center for Judaic Studies and Yad Vashem in Jerusalem. We were very much supported by scholars from the Apostolic Archives. It would have been impossible to do the work we did and to do what's going to happen in these next 3 days without them. But I also want to note that the whole preparation was done together with the Contemporary Jewish Documentation Center Foundation in Milano, the Center for Catholic Jewish Studies in St. Leo's University in Florida, and with help from many other organizations that will be able to give a word during these 3 days. And this was already an extraordinary moment in the sense that the material is so rich and so complete that it's impossible, I think, to get a grasp of it without different expertises. I don't think one unique person with one unique expertise is capable of having a whole vision of the situation. We try to bring together people from a wide range of not only expertise in fields, but also perceptions of the situation. The way we analyze the documents we have it was an enrichment, and this led to inviting scholars for these 3 days that are from a very wide range of fields, of institutions, of perceptions of the situation. And we really hope it will be the occasion for all these expertises and perceptions to come together. We did not want to exclude any one position. The other aspect is that during these 2 years of preparation, we had the experience that it was very enriching to leave behind our initial perceptions and to shift in our understanding through the contribution of others. And our wish and hope are to continue in the same vein for these 3 days. This is to enter into the conference with a willingness to work together and truly learn from each other. Let's say, if this conference will bear fruit if we can say at the end of the 3 days that we've really learned something and that we have a better understanding and maybe a new and different understanding than when we came in. A last word about the conference itself before I introduce the other co-organizer who's here with me. But of special significance for me as a theologian, I'm not a historian, is the option we took to bring together historians and theologians. Each session, you will see, was set up with a historical dimension and historical papers and a theological dimension. I think this is quite new, but because, of course, the first pressing questions are to establish historical situations and to try to get more clarity on the historical situation, but to understand the motivations of the different players in this moment of history, we need to understand their worldview, we need to understand their philosophy, and since we are dealing with relationship between the church and the Jewish people, to understand their theology. Just 3 quick examples. We need to understand how the different players on Pius XII, the Vatican, the papal nuncios, but also local bishops, understood the relation between state and church, or also between ethics and politics. We also need to understand, since there were many questions about the question of race, can we ground a theory of race on biblical revelation, or is it, on the contrary, impossible to and should be rejected from the grounds of biblical revelation? Other question, fundamental one, is the way the Catholic Church understood and now understands the Jewish people. That is, and this is not only a question that helps us understand the framework of the period, but it's interesting to see how the Holocaust and the next decades help the Church shift its understanding, come to a new understanding, which is now Catholic doctrine, which it wasn't Catholic doctrine before, it now is Catholic doctrine. Our colleagues from Yad Vashem, with whom we had been working hand in hand since the beginning, were not able to come because of the dramatic situation now in Israel. So we will, at the end of our session here, we will read a note from that was sent, a message that was sent by Dr. Yael Orvieto, who was the main co-organizer. But now I'm going to give the floor to Dr. Suzanne Brown Fleming of the United States Memorial Holocaust Museum, who was, yes, the main co-organizer with Yad Vashem, and I'd say the initial thrust for this conference. Suzanne?
Your Eminence. Oh, Your Eminence, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and most precious Holocaust survivors here in the audience. My name is Suzanne Brown Fleming, and on behalf of the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, it is my honor to welcome all of you. A nonpartisan federal educational institution, the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum is America's national memorial to the victims of the Holocaust, dedicated to ensuring the permanence of Holocaust memory, understanding, and relevance. Through the power of Holocaust history, the museum challenges leaders and individuals worldwide to think critically about their role in society and to confront anti-Semitism and other forms of hate, prevent genocide, and to promote human dignity. This is an extraordinary moment, even a magical moment for me, for all of us. Catholic scholars, Jewish scholars, scholars of other faiths, scholars with no denomination, have all come together for one purpose. We have come to study these documents and to think about their meaning for our lives, not to blame, not to shame, but to study. It is an extraordinary moment for me as a lifelong practicing Catholic. It's been a dream to study these documents together with my Jewish friends and colleagues in a transparent, open way, as the Holy Father asked of us in 2019 when he announced the opening of the documents. The Church is not afraid of history, is what His Holiness said in March of 2019. The support of the many organizers and sponsors for this conference demonstrate that we are at a new moment. We have left bifurcated debate to move towards serious study taken together. And I would be remiss to not note that we are so pleased with the Vatican Apostolic Archive partnership. They have been leaders and we have worked together for many decades, and the gratitude of the museum I must give to Bishop Pagano personally. Thank you very much. We are very proud to be part of this moment. Thank you.
We are proud to now listen, honored to now be able to listen to 2 words of introduction by Cardinal Parolin, Secretary of State of the Vatican, and Chief Rabbi Di Segni, Chief Rabbi of Rome. We'll start with Cardinal Parolin.
Excellency, dear Rabbi Riccardo Di Segni, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, professors, students, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. I would have never thought to begin today my speech with the dutiful, sad obligation to share and convey the sorrow that the Holy Father expressed yesterday at what is happening in Israel. 2 days ago, on the day of the Sabbath, on the feast of Simchat Torah, the joy of the Torah, in Israel, many Israeli brothers and sisters were awakened by a terrible and despicable attack. We are closer to the families of the victims, to the thousands of wounded, to those who are missing and kidnapped and now in grave danger. The Holy See is following with deep and grave concern the war that has been provoked, in which also many Palestinians in Gaza are losing their lives and many are displaced and wounded. Our closeness and prayers also go to their families and all civilians totally innocent. War is always the defeat of dignity and an occasion for not reaching any solution. Unfortunately, terrorism, violence, barbarism, and extremism undermine the legitimate aspiration of Palestinians and Israelis. I hope that the weapons will be silenced and reason will prevail and be used to pause and reflect on the right way to achieve peace in Israel and Palestine. Now, turning to this conference dedicated to the new documents from the pontificate of Pope Pius XII and their meaning from Jewish-Christian relations, a dialogue between historians and theologians, I am pleased to have received your gracious invitation to take part in it. In 2020, Pope Francis decided to make the archives of the pontificate of Pius XII available for consultation by scholars and researchers. Since then, several studies have been published that re-examine through different lenses some of the stereotypes. Since Pope Leo XIII, pontiffs have considered their archives to be an invaluable part of the Christian Catholic heritage and has a privileged witness to the journey of the entire humanity through the centuries. Establishing the historical truth by means of historical critical research is decisive. For this reason, the Holy See does not refrain from advising the public when personal historical interpretations differ from the result of the canons of scientific research, archival, paleographic, diplomatic, and historical sciences. In addition, maintaining historical accuracy sine glossa is also a means of defending the truth and dignity about all the parties involved. Unfortunately, there are still cases of scientific dishonesty which become historical manipulation when documents are negligently or deliberately concealed. An interesting case are the official response of Cardinal Secretary of State Gasparri to the New York American Jewish Committee in 1916 and to the Ashkenazi Jews of Jerusalem in 1919. These documents, only recently discovered, state how Catholics should view Jews. And I quote, "The Jews are our brethren, and the Jewish people should be considered brethren as any other people of the world." It is worth noting that the future Pope Pius XII, then Monsignor Eugenio Pacelli, who was back then the secretary of the Sacred Congregation for Extraordinary Ecclesiastical Affairs, personally contributed to the genesis and drafting of this text. Therefore, they portray a very different picture of the future Pope Pacelli from what is generally known. The fact that the 1916 document was referred to as an encyclical by the American commentator in the American Hebrew and Jewish Messengers suggests that it marked a significant milestone in Catholic-Jewish relations. In fact, Jews, including a small number of rabbis, were so convinced of Pius XII's friendly attitude towards them that they turned directly to the Holy See for help before and during the Second World War. Israel President Herzog recently recalled this in an interview with L'Osservatore Romano, when he spoke of his grandfather, Rabbi Isaac Herzog, and his cordial relationship with Pius XII and his collaborators during World War II. I would like to draw attention to these lost documents on 1916 and 1919, as well as to Eugenio Pacelli's warm friendships with a number of outstanding Jewish people from all over the world, to underline that the Holy See had already taken a stand in favor of the Jews during the First World War. In addition, from the beginning of the Second World War until its end, a considerable number of Catholics, out of religious conviction, but also out of obedience to the Pope, defended the Jews with all their means, also by taking part in active resistance against Nazism and fascism. Recent discoveries in the Vatican and other archives have made it easier for us to understand how the historical records were manipulated in the post-war era, resulting in little or no mention of Catholics in the resistance movements. Thanks to the recent opening of the archives, it has become more evident that Pope Pius XII followed both the path of diplomacy and that of undercover resistance. This strategic decision wasn't an apathetic inaction, but one that was extremely risky for everyone involved. Finally, I would like to point out that the number of documents from the pontificate of Pius XII is not only significantly higher than the archival holdings of his predecessors, but the documents are thematically richer, which helps to explain the variety of the Vatican's engagement on often entirely new fronts. It will take more than a generation of historians to build up consistency through the variety of the archival sources on Pope Pacelli. As a result, reflection and judgments will mature with time, allowing them to move beyond the narrow world of decontextualized subjective interpretations that lacks the support of historical sources and foundations. In other words, historians have years of work ahead of them, and hopefully they will continue to shed light on one of the most contentious and delicate periods known as the century of Pius XII. Let me conclude my remarks with the wish that this international conference and encounters and discussions between its participants over the next days may contribute to retracing the traces of history in a manner that they become a reminder, an encouragement, and an inspiration to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Eminency. Thank you for reminding us at the beginning of this conference that we need time to mature understanding. It's a pleasure to give the floor to Chief Rabbi Disegni, who honors us with his presence here.
Eminenza, Rettore, illustri prelati, diplomatici, docenti, tutto il pubblico, questa conferenza da tempo organizzata viene a cadere in un giorno molto triste per gli avvenimenti in Israele, e quindi abbiamo molti di noi la mente più in là che qua, e quindi è con un fondo di profonda preoccupazione che parlerò ora. Desidero portare il mio saluto a questo importante convegno, ringraziando gli organizzatori e i relatori per questa realizzazione, la cui importanza non deve essere sottovalutata. Questo è, o almeno dovrebbe essere, un convegno storico e scientifico. Ma non possiamo ignorare che l'oggetto di studio non è quello di un periodo storico lontano nel tempo, nel luogo, nelle persone. È vero, sono passati decenni, ma la memoria resta viva, non è ancora sublimata in storia, è carica di emozioni, una ferita aperta nei sopravvissuti e trasmessa ai loro discendenti, in particolare a coloro che vivono in questa città. Proprio oggi, in data ebraica, 24 di Tishri, è esattamente il giorno in cui, 80 anni fa, il treno dei deportati del 16 ottobre da Roma arrivò ad Auschwitz e 800 persone selezionate andarono immediatamente nelle camere a gas. E poi il martirio degli ebrei romani è solo un piccolo campione tra i milioni di persone toccate da questi fatti. Gli illustri relatori di questo convegno non hanno certamente bisogno di lezioni di metodo. Piuttosto, molto più che loro, sono le persone come me che seguono i lavori che dovranno fare in questi giorni delle distinzioni essenziali. La prima è tra emozione e storia. Analizzare i dati per quelli che sono, riuscire a trovare quel giusto distacco che serve in ogni ricerca obiettiva. Un'altra distinzione riguarda i piani coinvolti. C'è la dimensione religiosa, con le responsabilità del vertice di una grande religione, che è diversa, per quanto sia storicamente ad essa legata, dalla dimensione politica, la conduzione di uno Stato tra i grandi eventi della storia e le innumerevoli microstorie di sofferenze individuali. C'è il piano diplomatico, con le sue regole e procedure, che ha giocato un ruolo non indifferente negli avvenimenti. E c'è il piano morale, il giudizio che coinvolge una suprema autorità religiosa e l'istituzione stessa che essa guidava. I risultati delle ricerche che verranno presentati ci faranno capire meglio quello che è stato fatto o fatto in modo inadeguato e quello che non è stato fatto e quali erano i criteri che orientavano le scelte. Saranno molti tentati a concludere che quindi ha fatto bene o quindi ha fatto male, che non poteva fare altrimenti, oppure poteva fare molto di più, che era mal consigliato o che era ben consigliato. Lo storico ci aiuterà a capire l'inquadramento e lo svolgimento delle vicende, ma il piano della morale è diverso. In particolare c'è un'altra distinzione da fare che nasce dal problema della contestualizzazione. È chiaro che il mondo è molto cambiato da allora e tra le tante cose sono cambiati radicalmente i rapporti tra cristianesimo ed ebraismo. Allora non c'era il dialogo e la Chiesa, detto francamente, non amava gli ebrei. È vero che l'istituzione Chiesa rigettava il razzismo biologico, anche se molti fedeli l'avevano abbracciato. Tuttavia la Chiesa era carica di antigiudaismo radicato nei secoli. Le sofferenze ebraiche erano teologicamente giustificate, almeno un po', evitando gli eccessi, dal fatto che gli ebrei dovessero scontare il loro delitto primordiale. Se si tiene presente questo contesto, molte cose che oggi sarebbero inspiegabili trovano un loro inquadramento. Ma un conto è la spiegazione delle dinamiche e altro conto la giustificazione morale. Il divieto di uccidere è scolpito sulle tavole della legge da 34 secoli almeno. Per un tragico paradosso, molti degli uccisori degli ebrei professavano religioni che facevano riferimento a quelle stesse tavole. E adesso scusatemi la autocitazione. Quando nel gennaio del 2010 Papa Benedetto XVI venne in visita nella Sinagoga di Roma, ripetendo il gesto storico del suo predecessore, nel discorso di saluto gli dissi queste parole: il silenzio di Dio o la nostra incapacità di sentire la sua voce davanti ai mali del mondo è un mistero impescrutabile, ma il silenzio dell'uomo è su un piano diverso, ci interroga, ci sfida e non sfugge al giudizio. Di quale giudizio parlavo? È il giudizio di ognuno di noi, di persone comuni, che sono state coinvolte dai fatti e di tanti altri che studiano la storia e che si interrogano sulle responsabilità morali, che sono tanto più grandi quando si è investiti del ruolo di guide spirituali. Sono le persone di buon senso che vogliono capire, senza per questo costituirsi in una corte giudicante che emette sentenze inappellabili. Quello che tutti noi ci aspettiamo, però, in questo momento particolare di grande verifica storica, è che i nostri sentimenti e i nostri ricordi dolorosi siano rispettati e non siano offesi dalle sentenze di altri tribunali assolutori e apologetici a ogni costo. Il dialogo ebraico-cristiano, di cui anche ci si occuperà in questo convegno, nasce da una revisione totale di posizioni che hanno seminato sofferenze e drammi nella storia. Questa revisione è stata una crescita spirituale reciproca che dobbiamo mantenere e promuovere. Le grandi festività ebraiche che abbiamo celebrato nei giorni scorsi hanno insistito sul tema della Teshuvah. Teshuvah significa ritorno da una strada sbagliata. Se siamo in grado di fare Teshuvah, il volto divino ci illuminerà. Lo studio del passato, che non può essere cancellato, ci aiuterà meglio in questa svolta. È l'auspicio di tutti che il nostro convegno sia una tappa fondamentale in questo percorso. Ciascuno nella sua identità, magari senza esagerare. Sono un po' presbite e soltanto adesso, vedendo il logo di questo convegno, ho capito che c'è un bellissimo confronto fatto dal grafico tra l'immagine della sinagoga di Roma e la cupola di San Pietro. Però la cupola di San Pietro sopra non c'è la croce, invece la croce ce l'ha la sinagoga.
E la scrittura?
No, non proprio una croce. Sopra c'è un parafulmine.
Non si sa 100% se una croce, però...
Bene.
Grazie.
No.
Scusa.
Ultima frase. In questi termini auguro buon lavoro a tutti i convegnisti.
Thank you, Chief Rabbi Dizeni, for having brought to our attention all these very important distinctions between emotions and history and religion and ethics. I think you've also brought up the importance of to what extent many of us are still touched by the wounds of memory, and the invitation to teshuvah, to conversion. We now were supposed to have a short introduction also by Dr. Yael Nida-Morvieto, who's been director of the International Institute for Holocaust Research in Yad Vashem, and who was one of the main partners for the preparation of this conference. She teaches at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and she was the editor-in-chief of the publications department of Yad Vashem. Now, she has not been able to come because of the dramatic situation in Israel. So she sent a message for us that Dr. Rebecca Carter-Chan from the United States Memorial Holocaust Museum will now read.
Dear friends, on behalf of the International Institute for Holocaust Research at Yad Vashem, I would like to send our best greetings for this most important conference. Our institute has always believed in serious, honest, and unbiased research. The opening of the Vatican Archives offers an important opportunity for deeper scrutiny of this chapter of the Holocaust, which includes many controversial questions. We believe that it is important to open those topics to meticulous scholarly investigation, to join different disciplines that can help understand the complexities, the contexts, and the various factors that influence the decision-making process and actions. We should look into the center and the periphery, the individual and the collective, the grassroots and the leadership of the Catholic Church and the dynamics between them. I am sure that this conference will contribute to an important dialogue on these questions. The opportunity to combine historical and theological approaches will undoubtedly enhance a deeper discussion and comprehension for the benefit of future research. Unfortunately, we could not join you at this significant conference due to the outbreak of the war, forced by a brutal and vicious attack on unarmed civilians and on the State of Israel. These are indeed very difficult times here, and we hope to emerge from this current crisis as soon as possible. We wish you all a fruitful conference. Yael Nidam Orvieto.
We are, of course, very sad that Yael and also her colleague Elliot Nidam, who was supposed to give a talk, could not be here with us. We're even sadder and more shocked by the war in Israel. And we are from the depth of our heart in communion with the Jewish people in this dramatic moment. Ambassador Raphael Schutz, Israeli ambassador to the Holy See, and I have spoken before this opening session, and we would like to have a minute of silence for, in the memory of the victims of the attack, the dead, the wounded, those who were kidnapped, and also their family. So we could take this minute of silence right now before we proceed with the rest of the conference. May God have mercy on us.